Hi there. Today I'm going to teach you how to make your own coil basket using discarded electrical cord and plastic bags. So in order to make your own coil basket, you'll need scissors, a plastic bag, the cord, and a bookbinding needle with a large eye hole. You can often find these at a leather supply or at any art supply store in the bookbinding section. So first, you'll need to cut up your plastic bag. Lay the plastic bag out, take your scissors, and cut along the right side of the bag. I've already cut this side, but I'm going to also cut off the top of the handle. I'm going to bring the bag over and cut along the bottom side of the plastic bag. Now your plastic bag can fold out, and we can create long strips horizontally and this will be used to bind the coils together. So often just start cutting the longest strips possible and try to get the most amount of plastic that you can get from the bag to keep it out of the landfill. I'll be cutting strips about an inch or inch and a half thick. Sometimes I'll tug on the piece and see if anything breaks off. Then I'll keep the largest part that's intact and add it to my pile. If there's any creases in the bag from the manufacturing design, I really like to pull and flatten it or cut that part off entirely. See how I've cut off the seam here? Since the seam might be too thick to go through the needle. It's okay if the strips aren't perfectly neat, as we'll be twisting these to create a cord-like material similar to yarn, just like this. Feel free to use plastic bags of different colors and strengths, and you can decide which strength of plastic that you like to work with. You can also create different designs using the different colors of the plastic bags. Now that you cut up enough plastic bag strips, gather them together and put them in a small container just to keep your space organized. You may need to cut more plastic bag strips later, depending on the size of the basket or coaster that you'll be making. So next you're going to grab your needle and the electrical cord. The length of the electrical cord determines how many coils you can do and how large or tall you want your vessel to be. You won't be needing your scissors at this time, so you can put those away. So being sure not to lose my needle, I'm gonna always put it back in the same spot. I'm gonna grab a strip of the plastic bag that I just cut. Try to find a nice strong piece that has a really good length. So first, we're going to thread the needle. I will often try to fold the plastic in half to try to create the smallest width of the folded plastic so that it can fit through the eye of my needle. Once you've threaded your needle, you should be able to pull the plastic strip back and forth slightly. Next, we're going to start creating the coil basket. This is going to be the hardest part for your hands. Grabbing your wire, we're going to take the top about an inch or so and start bending that inch of wire on top of itself. Some wire will be more flexible than others, but we really want to just ingrain this shape so that it's easier and less stress on our hands. Keep pressing the coil, and you'll see that the wire begins to remember slightly the shape that we're pushing it into. Now we're going to wrap the plastic around the cord. I'm gonna have it in my left hand, the cord, and the plastic in my right hand. I'm gonna start wrapping about 3 inches down, holding with my left hand and wrapping it with my right hand. Notice that I'm holding the beginning of the coil with my middle finger here, and then as I continue to wrap, my left index finger is going to hold the new coil. So continue to wrap until we reach the end of this. If you're running out of hand room, you can slightly start to squeeze, moving that needle down so you have more room to continue wrapping the plastic coil. I'm going to change my grip so that these fingers are holding down there while I continue to wrap up here. Okay, I'm going to move the needle down again so I have a little more room. And I'm going to start to squeeze that wire together to start to create that spiral, that coil shape. So I'm going to take the plastic in my right hand, grabbing the needle. We're gonna go underneath here, underneath the thumb and index finger, pulling that plastic through. Now, I'm going to take the needle and I'm gonna go on top right here. Bring this closer up so you can see, bringing it through this hole. Now I'm going to pull it through and pull pretty tight. Now we're gonna do the same thing again. Notice I'm not letting go with my left index finger. I am gonna slightly move it so I can wrap the plastic over again. Wrap it underneath. And we're kind of creating a figure 8 for the next section. Pulling that needle away so that you have some room. So I'm gonna repeat that part. So we just brought the needle through, put this underneath my left index finger. I'm gonna bring it towards me, wrap it underneath, bring it underneath this top coil, bring it over, and I'm really pushing down with my left hand. Now, let's bring it through again, tucking it slightly underneath the left little coil area right here, wrapping underneath. And now, look, I ran out of wire right here to wrap over, so I'm gonna slowly start to squeeze it together. So we're slowly creating that spiral, right? Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can flip while still holding tight. You can flip the spiral so that the plastic piece is behind you, and you wrap that left piece into the next layer. So you see how there's this layer and then there's this center. So this is the first layer underneath the second coil. And I'm gonna press my needle through in between the two coils, just like that, pulling behind. We're gonna do that one more time. We're gonna bring the plastic over, bringing the needle, pushing it somewhere through that top coil. I'm gonna pull it through on the other side, pulling it tight. Now I'm gonna switch hands, still keeping that spiral tight. I'm gonna bring this over, under, and through. So if your needle falls off towards the end when it gets shorter, I like to press it down to keep it stabilized, and then I put my needle back on. Great. All right, and then bring back that pressure that you have for the coil. We're wrapping it around. Now we only have a little bit left here, so we want to make sure that we're really tightening these 3 layers together. So I'm going to go in underneath and then through the middle. Okay, you can bring your needle a little bit to the edge and then push that through. I'm going to pull it all the way through. All right, so now we're here. And we're at the end of our plastic piece. So I'm gonna take the needle off, still holding with my left hand. Go ahead and grab another piece of plastic. Remember, you can push your piece down on the ground to keep that pressure while you thread your needle. All right, I like to pull it about halfway or a quarter way through the plastic strip. Okay, now we're back holding that spiral. We have our needle threaded on our new piece of plastic. I'm going to bring it underneath here, making sure we're tucking in that spiral. And then my middle finger is gonna hold it, the tail, on top right here. Now we're gonna continue to wrap. So we're going to wrap once underneath, 2, 3. This is a little tricky because your left hand is stabilizing. And once we've done 3 or 4 wraps, we're gonna take the needle, going into the center again and pulling it through. Nice. So we're going to continue. So we're going to wrap around 1, 2, 3. We're slowly rotating so we can continue to make a big spiral. Moving that needle down a little bit if you need more room. Let's do 1 more. Notice my left hand is holding that wrap. And this little tail here is from that first piece of plastic, but I'll show you how we can hide it and wrap it in. All right, so now the plastic is coming out from the bottom of this top wire. I'm gonna grab the needle. We're gonna go into this bottom we're still going into the middle of the spiral. And we're pulling that plastic through. Okay, I'm gonna keep on spinning. Okay, wrap again. 1, 2, 3. We're going down and pulling through. Sometimes it'll be a little tough to pull the plastic through with the needle, but wiggling it around does help. Okay, we're gonna keep going. Still holding that left hand tight onto the spiral. Okay, taking the needle. You might notice some space right here has opened up. We're gonna still keep putting we're gonna still keep putting the needle through that hole. So after I put it through the hole, notice that I'm reaching underneath and through to kind of wrap and create this figure 8 wrap. And I'm moving this needle away from me so that I have more room. So I'm pushing it through the plastic. There we go. Okay, so now we're back here. Wrapping away from you. 1, 2, 3. Wrapping. So you have to have pretty strong hands. We're gonna go into the hole, reaching and pulling through, pulling it tight. Continue to wrap. If you want to tighten this hole, instead of going through this hole, you can go through this meatier section, and that will fill in that hole. Pulling tight. Again, I'm wrapping underneath that top wire again. 2, 3. I'm gonna reach this plastic through, not this hole that I normally do, into this lower one, just so I can fill in this hole. If you don't mind having a hole at the bottom of your vessel, maybe you're making a pot, then you can continue to go just underneath that first level. All right, so here we are again where we ran out of our plastic strip. I'm gonna hold it in my left hand, grab from my stash, I'm anchoring this down with my hand so I can help my right hand thread the needle. This time I'm going to use a lighter weight plastic bag. This bag is from Sonora Town. Taking my time to thread the needle. Okay, picking it up where we left off with our left hand. Pulling that leftover plastic tight. Okay, so in order to wrap the next piece of plastic over the remaining plastic, I'm going to place it behind, holding with my thumbs, bring it forward. Now I'm going to wrap underneath and over. So I've secured it now. And I'm gonna keep wrapping over it a couple more times. Then taking the needle underneath into the level below. Moving that needle down so it's out of my way. And you can choose which pattern you'd like to make. Some people like to wrap 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then bring it down, sewing it into the next level. If that's too many, see, I ran out of some plastic on this piece. I'm gonna put it back on. I'm just gonna do 2 wraps. Okay. Just like that. Okay, so I know that this plastic piece isn't enough to do a whole nother figure 8 around here and back down, so I'm gonna grab another piece from my stash. Okay, I'm gonna put the needle on first, holding it down here with my right hand. Trying to make the skinniest piece of plastic possible to go through the needle, pulling it through. All right, so grabbing it again with your left hand. So you can kind of see this coil we've built. It's kind of messy, it's not perfect, but then again, that's just my style. There's a couple other videos that I can share that can do a really much more precise opening for these. You can get much tighter depending on the flexibility of the wire you're using. But sometimes, you can see in this example, you're left with a hole at the bottom. But moving forward with this for the demo, I'm again going to secure the remnant of the pink plastic bag by holding it with my left hand and bringing the new one behind it, wrapping it down. See that? I'm gonna go underneath and wrap over. I'm gonna slide it over because I don't want any of the black wire to be showing for this, but that's a stylistic choice. I'm wrapping a 3rd time, taking the needle. I'm gonna go into the space right underneath the coil below. Okay, I'm gonna pull it tight. Okay, I'm gonna wrap again. 1, 2, 3, and going down. 1, 2, 3. Wrap. Okay, so once you've finished through your cord and you're about to finish up your basket, I like to start to push and tuck in the very end of that cord. So there's a couple different things you can do. Some people will bring this down and do a little bit of hot glue or super glue to keep this in. Sometimes you can push this in with your needle, but if it doesn't want to stay, I tend to like to do a little bit of glue, and sometimes I'll take my scissors and I'll cut off this end at an angle. So notice how I cut that electrical cord at an angle. So that way when I'm wrapping it around, creating a smooth surface, so it'll blend into the overall bowl. If you do want to tidy up some things, usually the basket is strong enough for you to cut this part out, or you can try again, tuck it in. You can use the needle to kind of push it through if your fingers aren't doing the job. Then you're all set. Some last tips. Be sure the needle you get has a blunt end. It's not super sharp. If your needle gets stuck and you can't seem to pull it through, sometimes I'll get a piece of tape, wrap it around, and that'll give me some more surface texture to then pull my needle, and then I take the tape off after that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this little video. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. Let's save these items from landfills and continue to make them into functional objects. Cheers.